All right, ladies and gentlemen. Topic of discussion for today is Vibraflex. Now, after posting my build kind of publicly on social media the last couple of days, I've gotten questions about this material. This material is, there are different makes and models, shapes and sizes, thicknesses of this particular Vibraflex. This stuff is 190 mil material that I got from PPC, or Peer Pressure Deadener, which is from Anton Miller here locally in Minnesota. He sells a lot of it. I bought a pallet worth 2,000 pounds of it. But I'm going to kind of get into how to properly use this stuff, because I'm seeing that most people have no idea how to properly install this, or even double rigid, which is practically the same material in terms of this stuff, but with a foil back. I've also used double rigid. I prefer that when doing roofs, but a lot of problems is when people use this Vibraflex stuff for roofs, they're like, oh, it fails. Well, it's because they're not getting it hot enough. But I do personally like using double rigid on a roof, and I do use this on top of that. But double rigid does have a little bit better contact adhesive, but that's not the point of why this fails. Double rigid is practically, like I said, this material, and it hardens like concrete once you get it hot enough. The foil is not so much for rigidity or strength. I'm noticing the foil on double rigid as more like an area to apply heat to disperse heat more evenly, as to where this Vibraflex stuff, if you heat it in one spot, it only gets hot in one spot. So like I said, the foil to that isn't strong enough to really do anything, especially for mass loading. So usually this is the stuff I go for when I want to mass load stuff. But I love double rigid. Double rigid is good stuff. It is expensive. But honestly, most of the double rigid that I use in my vehicle, when I'm done literally applying heat, and I'm talking this heat, not this heat. This is weak compared to that. But apply enough heat where the foil would actually delaminate, separate from this type of material from that, and I would just rip it off, and it would, everything else would stick, but I would get it so hot I would cook off that layer, and it doesn't matter. I just kept putting more up there, and it just, it sticks. But with this stuff, if you want to use Vibraflex properly, you have to treat it as, the way I'm going to show you. Just like with double rigid as well, the back side, the adhesive side, this is the acrylic side, so it's an acrylic-based glue from my understanding. So when you peel off this layer here, that's the sticky side. So to be mindful of this, if you're not literally taking this and melting this down into total liquid like I have done in certain places of my build, which is a different method, you can apply direct flame to the whole thing to melt it down. But if you're going to keep it in sheet form or cut it to size and apply it and roll it on and heat it up and roll it on, you don't ever want to apply heat directly to the acrylic side, the sticky side. That will flash it, that will ruin it. So if you melt it into one thick material, it becomes more like tar base, and it holds a lot of sticky property, because what you don't see is on this surface there's a wax coating. This wax coating keeps this side from being sticky, kind of like the adhesive side is, but it's not as sticky obviously, but it is sticky. So right now it's not sticky because there's a protective coating on it. So that's the main issue with people having this stuff fail. It's not so much that when somebody does this on a roof in a vehicle, it's not so much they stick a layer up and it falls off. It's usually 2, 3, 4 layers stick to each other that start separating from that first layer. If you properly, what you're supposed to be doing is cleaning with acetone and mineral spirits all your metals clean, very, very fucking clean, as clean as you can possibly get them. No residue, whatever. This acrylic side, as long as you're not blasting it with heat on this side, as long as you're getting it hot enough on this side, will more to be easily cure to any type of metal and not come off. But if you do not get this wax layer off the side that you heat, and that the same side you would stick another layer to, it won't stick. Or it will, it will for a while, but then prematurely fail as it starts getting warm out and it wants to delaminate, separate real easily. Because it's not sticking to anything, it's sticking to a wax layer that I'm going to show you. So, there's a couple ways to get rid of this wax layer. And it depends on how you want to install this material. With that being said, if you're applying this somewhere where you can't get this in a vehicle safely without burning, plastics, any type of interior shit that's not plastic, like headliners, vinyl, whatever, or fucking power cabling or any kind of fucking accessory, any kind of cabling in the car, anything where you can't apply a massive amount of heat, you're going to want to probably peel, and you want to do more than one layer, you're going to have to peel this coating off, or you get it hot enough outside the vehicle before you apply it, and you wear heat pad gloves, anything, or weather glove, whatever, to protect yourself from how hot this stuff can get. You can heat it outside the vehicle. Now, what I do is, if I'm going to apply this in a vehicle and not melt it and pour it, I will generally heat this up outside the car to where it's malleable. So like right now it's stiff. It's like 50 degrees in the garage right now. It doesn't want to bend or move or conform. And it actually, weirdly enough, it starts breaking if you pull on it. It becomes brittle until you heat treat it and actually apply it. Then it becomes a lot stronger and less brittle. So, anyways, to this fucking wax layer, what you want to do is apply heat outside the vehicle. Like I said, if you're going to apply this as a sheet into a car, but you can't get enough heat into the car to do it, this you can use and it'd be a lot more finer. But this, I mean, literally to fucking light this, or just like, and do this small area, and it takes time to fucking do this and to actually heat soak this and then spread it. It's especially when you got to do hundreds and hundreds of pounds of it, it's impractical and it's really not doing it justice. So when you're doing it this way, it can be done if you're really patient with it and you're doing it in small areas. But if you're doing a whole vehicle, it's not going to cut it. And, if you think you got it on there and you did it all with this, you probably didn't really get it on there. So regardless, this wax layer. So if you want to fucking burn it off prior to putting it in the car, and you want it to be flexible, whatever, a good way is just to heat it naturally, which we're going to take this to the floor, and I'm actually going to take the camera down and show you what I mean by that. So we're going to do a demonstration here. I'm actually going to start this guy up and then leave it on the ground so I can grab the camera. So I'm going to use this to ignite my propane deal. Oh, come on. One-handed. Crack this bitch open. There we go. So, very low, propane burns very hot. Blue flame is what you want. When it's sitting there idle without air, this is kind of what you're looking for, right? So, that being said, we're going to heat this up. So, normally, if you're going to apply more heat than just this when you apply it into the car, you can just pull the trigger, and you can see how it's evenly warming it up. You want to kind of level it out. This is a lot more heat than you think it is. I'm very close, and this is a very big thrower. But right there is a good spot to be if you can apply more heat in the vehicle and work with it in the car and apply more heat. And it's now a lot more malleable, as you can see. Safe to touch still, but not hot. It's not like, this is a good point to help take the tape off and put it in the car and roll it on, but it's not done. It needs to be cooked much further than this. So if you can do it this way, put it in the car and then cook it some more to where this becomes more like a melted, slurry mess, kind of like how this is starting to look like Jason, Freddy Krueger's fucking face or whatever, in that weird sense like that. That's kind of what you're looking for, because you're starting to burn that wax layer off. But if you can't apply more heat, which you need to for this material at this current stage, in the car, keep heating it outside the car, like this. And this is hard glue. Like, this is very, very hot. And I'm being patient with it. See how much heat I'm applying into this? That little map torch ain't gonna do that. This is a lot of heat. Okay, so there is the point where you pretty much have most of the wax layer burnt off. It becomes much shinier and, well, a lot more like liquid, and I can still touch it, but this should be a little too workable. Yeah, it's a little too soft now, but at this stage, you pretty much burnt a lot of that wax off. So what you could do is wait for it to solidify a little bit, cool off a little bit more, and then come back to it, peel off the back, put it in the car, stick it to something, and roll it on, and should make a big difference. And then if you could, put a little bit more heat to it to kind of help it out. But the other way, I'm going to show you, which I'm going to turn this off. So that should be closed and closed. All right, I'm going to put this back up on the table here, and we're going to continue with this spiel of mine. So most people, when they're handling stuff like this, if you're not doing something huge like I am, where I'm literally taking stacks of this shit and either melting it or it lays up flat on the floor ceiling and laying it out and just putting it up there and heating it and pushing it in, because the whole interior of my vehicle is stripped. And even then, I was still cautious to whatever was laying around that was vehicle wiring harnesses to avoid, which was still very difficult. But to properly do a vehicle with this material, you should have it stripped completely naked, dash everything. To properly do it right, which makes a huge difference. So another way to kind of get this wax layer off without heat, which would make your life a lot easier, you're going to flip it over to the acrylic adhesive side, the paper side, and then you're going to take a speed square or whatever, and you're going to cut your piece to whatever size dimension you're going to need. If you're not using a full piece, this is what I like to do. Even if you want to use a full piece, it's better just to cut a little bit off, because you're going to see what I'm going to do here. So let's say I want to cut it up the middle, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a razor blade here, and I slipped with the goddamn speed square. But you want to score it like you would cutting sheetrock, right? And then you're going to take this over to the edge. I'm going to make sure you guys can still see this. Kind of, sort of. I'm going to move it over to the edge, and you're going to snap it at the line like you would concrete. You're going to go down like that. But don't go any further than that than where it is broken. And then you're going to pick it up, kind of like sheetrock, where you kind of turn it into an angle like that. And not always, but most of the time, it's probably not going to do it for me on this try, because it's probably being dumb. But you can go like this. Yeah, I didn't really do it, but I've done this a lot where I've gotten really good at certain spots where, you see, this is the wax layer I was telling you guys about, this stuff. This is the wax that's preventing you, see, from doing this right. See, it pulls off really easy. It's a little bit more time consuming, but it's well worth it for mass loading. And most of this is already taken off. Look, we got almost this whole sheet here removed with this wax layer. So let's see here. I got to start an edge. You get the point. Here's a corner. If I can get it started. Yeah, here we go. It broke off. You get the point. Most of it this is the stuff that is literally preventing you from sticking this or adhering it to your vehicle properly. I'm going to kind of throw this wax layer away. It's kind of annoying. So by doing that, you can see where it is and isn't on here. And what you can tell right away, it's more shiny with the wax paper off, and it's actually sticky. My fingers want to stick to this now. Like, it actually has grip. Like, it wants to stick to each other, even though this is a wax layer, this is a wax layer. But this is now stickier without the wax on it. And when you melt this now, without that, it's like shit you don't want to get on your goddamn fingers or hands or anywhere. A little heat up like that. It doesn't do that weird crinkly stuff anymore. Kind of actually levels it off. And the stuff right there, yeah, super, super sticky. Yeah. and it cures better. So by doing that allows you, and you would have to do this layer too, but with that, it allows you to take this side off, slap it to that, bada bing, bada boom, you have a baby pachyderma. But no, actually, I'm being rough with it. But look, it wants to, like, it's not even melted, it's not even heated up or stuck together. I just really slapped it on there and actually broke the corner. But it wants to stick. See? It wants to stick. You couldn't do that with a piece like that with its own what do you want to call it, that wax layer. It won't stick to it. Does not stick to it at all. It won't even have enough grab. This over here, after beating on it just once, look at this. Look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this, look at this. Still sticks. It's not even melt like this. It just doesn't fucking, shows you right there that this stuff is worthless. So when you do, regardless if it's a roof or not, if you're using this material from any brand, if it's, let's say it's from a Sundown or PPC or whoever sells this material, there's all different brands and types and sizes. They all have this wax layer though. So if you want to do more than one layer, which I recommend when you mass loading is, you're beefing shit up. You want to at least do, 3, 4 fucking layers, easy. You have to make sure you either melt the wax layer off or you peel it off to be able to stack multiple layers. So you can do your whole roof, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 layers of this. As long as that first metal layer is clean, then you have a good adhesion from this layer. All these layers will kind of glue together without that wax layer. So another thing is you want to get this stuff hot enough that when you roll it, you're not getting seams. Like if you put it up tight, you see I have a seam here and all this and that. When you do this properly, when you heat it up hot enough, it should almost want to turn into a liquid state, and you should be able to use a roller and roll this down kind of flat into each other pieces, all the rounded pieces, and all the seams and all the pieces should meld together and look like one big giant piece, and it should all look, kind of smooth in a weird sense of together. Now, if you do it like I do in a lot of places where I'm able to take door panels off, stuff like that, melt and pour this stuff, that doesn't hurt anything for stickiness because it's just, it melts all this off. And like I'm showing you here, this material is actually sticky. They just have a wax layer to prevent this side from being sticky, which is stupid. So like this stuff, from what I can tell, is engineered and designed to be a one layer type deal. So a lot of people get this wrong, and they also don't get it hot enough. You need to get this shit fucking hot. This stuff ain't gonna cut it. They could cut it for small pieces like this in small areas where you can't get it, sure. Bigger sheets, you got a lot of it, that ain't gonna cut it. I've gone through 30 of these fucking 20-pound propane tanks. But yeah, we come back to this. It's practically hard again, but it's not brittle. See, I'm able to bend it and move it. So now this, you could almost reheat it again, just to soften up a little bit more and put it in the car. But this wax layer, a lot of it has been melted off. When you see a lot of the shiny stuff on here, that's where the wax has now disappeared. So the hotter you get it, the better it is. The hotter you treat it as well, the stronger it gets when it re-solidifies. So the closer you get to a liquid state, I noticed, the stronger it becomes. Anyways, we're gonna walk over here. I got the Jeep at the mechanic shop right now for a couple things. Other people want to know about this turkey fryer and all this shit. Now, if you've never done it, I recommend not doing it, or at least practicing out somewhere safe, nowhere near cars or a building or whatever. It doesn't matter what you do as long as you take off the paper and you put, 40, 50, 60 pounds. I was doing up to 100 pounds per go with it. And I could take 40, 50, 60 minutes to do with a propane on the turkey fryer and another propane tank set up with the thrower as well. So you're using the thrower to blow heat top down into the bucket to heat the top side, while the bottom is heating as well. And then you'll get a chunk in the middle. It's still not melted. And you're going to take that and kind of flip it around and stuff with a steel bar and kind of mix it in until it fully melts into like a chunky, warm peanut butter that you would put in a microwave. But it's like 1,000 fucking degrees to do that. It's a lot of energy, a lot of heat, a lot of patience. And I did a lot of that. And I still got to do some more of that when the Jeep comes back. But what I'm saying is, if you've never done it, experiment, try, be safe about it. I don't want people to come back, oh, I fucked up my car. Like, you got to be careful. I burnt myself. I've done all kinds of stuff. I have my hands are pretty much cleaned up. That was like a month ago, where fucking blisters and all kinds of blood blisters and burn blisters and all kinds of shit with this. You got to be careful with that. And then where you're pouring it, where you're dumping it, because it holds so much heat, this dender, that it will radiate heat and possibly burn things nearby that you're not even trying to burn, like wire harnesses, shit like that. Like, you got to be very, very careful about doing it and doing it right. So, and there's other ways of doing this where people will take a torch, smaller pieces, and like a hot glue stick, shove it into crevices and melt it while they're pushing it in there like a hot glue stick. In certain areas, it works really well too. But like I said, you get that wax layer off though, this piece stuck. And I actually, for just being like that, compared to like you take this and try sticking it to itself, it doesn't stick, and this one's stuck. I'm going to show you how much stronger this can get if I melt it into it. So let's get some propane running in here. I know it's a long video, but I'm trying to get my message through that this shit has to be hot, like really hot. And it's gotta be done right. You're gonna get failures if you don't apply it properly. Shit like that. A lot of it comes down to is getting it to layer multiple layers, is heat, time, pressure, and getting rid of that wax layer. So let's take a gander here. I mean, this stuff takes a lot of fucking heat. Like, that's directly on it. Okay, so it should start smoking a little bit like that, which is fine. Trust me, I have breathed in so many fucking fumes. That's another thing, is you're going to get a lot of fumes when you blast the top of this with heat. So be careful. Seriously, be careful. Do it outside. I did some of this right above my huge exhaust fan with the door open in here. For some of it, 'cause it was too cold outside, and even that wasn't enough. So you get the idea. My rollers are dirty. But you get the idea of when you push it down, see how it kind of sticks to the roller? So you want to use water. You want to dunk your roller into raw water and then roll it on. So right now, since I don't have water in my roller, so it wants to stick to my roller, I'll just let that wait for a minute or two and come back and roll it into that material. And it becomes one piece. This piece becomes this piece. They both become one piece, you know, and they stick. You can see how I'm just kind of mashing it. Like, this isn't a good example, but you get the idea of like how it will melt and fold into each other just like that. So even with that, not even being rolled, just being pushed into each other like that, you let that sit and cool down for a couple minutes, that's never coming apart again. That'll have to be, and I'm fine ruining these few pieces because they're not ruined. I'm going to end up putting them in another batch of heat pot there and melt it down. Like, I still have less than a half a pallet left over there. Like, that pallet was it's kind of messy because they like to slip around. Over half that pallet's gone. That used to be twice as tall and had way more stacks that are missing. It's just kind of deorganized. And I still got to use another 400 or 500 pounds of this in the next week or two. So a lot of that's going to disappear. So most of 2,000 pounds, it's about 400 pounds there that I haven't used yet. So most of that's going in front of the cab, but you get the idea. Shit is not coming off ever. That's still hot. Oof. And it doesn't want to come off. So you get the idea. You want it to mold itself. When you roll it, it'll look like one piece. So yeah, you see me heating up that little section that long. That's the bare minimum how hot you should get it. It should pretty much turn into molten slag. So you kind of get the point. It seems like such an obvious, no-brainer, common sense thing to do, but it seems like a lot of people have it wrong. Now, even seeing pictures of people doing like double rigid and stuff, and none of their their white printed, what do you call that? Aluminum back foil isn't even brown or black from heating it with the heat torch, you didn't do it right. It needs to be literally burnt. And the thing about double rigid is it can take more heat than this because it has an aluminum back that you heat up. But if you heat it up too fast, it burns it, but doesn't get the backside hot enough. So it's a lesser aggressive heat. I wish I had a piece here. You do the same thing with that, but you pull it further back so it's not fully directly on it, and you take a lot more time because it takes energy to really disperse through aluminum. So, but it gives you a better even heat. But by the end of it, it should start turning brown and looking burnt. And I see a lot of people using that, and it's pure white, like they never even hit it with heat. And if they did, they used this little guy over here, and that's not enough. It's just not. I don't care what anybody says. So, I mean, I used hundreds of pounds of propane. So I think you guys understand where I'm trying to come from here is, if you're buying this stuff, it's not as simple as your normal traditional full back deadeners where, oh, I just roll it on and I'm done. You know, there's a lot of prep and work involved with actually doing mass loading with this material, but the results are worth it.